Friends and viewer, good day. Thomas Hardy, as I had discussed with you with one of his best novel, Mayor of Casterbridge, The Return of the Native. Now today I'm going to discuss with you one of his other best novel, Tess of D URBERVILLAS by Thomas Hardy. And this is one of the Hardy's best and controversial novel, along with Jude the Obscure. So this is the story of a Tess, a pure woman. Hardy, as all of you know, was born in 1840. 1928 he died, one of the few writers who succeed, both major novelist and a poet also. So he wrote many beautiful novels like The Poor Man and the Lady, The Return of the Native, Jude the Obscure, The Mayor of Casterbridge, Far from Madding Crowd, and many others. So this is the book, Tess of the D URBERVILLAS. Tess is the name of the heroine protagonist of this novel. So the story of this novel begins like a man, a poor peddler, the father of Tess of the D URBERVILLAS, John Durbeyfield, is turned to learn. One day while he was coming, he learned that he is the descendant of an ancient noble family, the D URBERVILLAS. So meanwhile, Tess, his eldest daughter, the heroine, joins the other village girl in the May Day Fest dance, where Tess briefly exchanges glances with a young man. Mr. Burfield and his wife decided to send Tess to the D URBERVILLAS mansion. So they come to know that another one of their family member, they are very rich people, so they decided to send Tess to the D URBERVILLAS mansion, where they hope Mrs. D URBERVILLAS will make Tess fortune. In reality, Mrs. D URBERVILLAS is no relation to Tess at all. Her husband, the merchant Simon Stokes, simply changed his name to D URBERVILLAS after he retired, but Tess does not know the fact. And when the lascivious Alec D URBERVILLAS, the son of the Mrs. D URBERVILLAS, he procures a job for a Tess to tend the fowls, the dairy farm, D URBERVILLAS in D URBERVILLAS estate. Tess had no choice but to accept this job, since she blames herself for an accident involving the family's horse. It is only means of their income. Tess spent several months at this job, resisting Alec's attempt to seduce. Alex was a bad man. He tries to seduce, many times he tried to seduce Tess, this poor lady, a very young lady. Finally, Alec takes advantage of her in the woods one night after a affair. Tess knows she does not love Alec. She returns home to her family to give birth to Alec's child, whom she christens with the name Sorrow, a little Sorrow. Sorrow dies soon after he is born, and Tess spends a miserable year at a home before deciding to seek work elsewhere. She finally accepts a job as a milkmaid at the Talbothy's dairy. At Talbothy's dairy, Tess enjoys a period of contentment and happiness. She befriends three of her fellow milkmaids, Retty and Marion, and meets a man named Angel Clear, who turns out to be the man from the May Day dance at the beginning of the novel. Tess and Angel slowly fall in love. They grow closer throughout Tess' time at Talbothy's and she eventually accepts his proposal of marriage. Still, she is troubled by pangs of conscience and feels she should tell Angel about her past, she writes him a confessional note and slips it under his door, but it slides under the carpet and Angel never sees it. So what happened that after their wedding, Angel and Tess both confess in discretion. They confess their past with each other. Angel Tess tells about an affair he had with an older woman in London. And Tess tells Angel about her history with Alec. Tess forgives Angel, but Angel cannot forgive Tess. He gives her some money and boards a ship bound for Brazil, where he thinks he might establish a farm. He tells Tess he will try to accept her past, but warns her not to try to join him until he comes for her. Tess struggles now. The hardship falls upon Tess. She has a difficult time finding work and is forced to take a job to an unpleasant and unprosperous farm. She tries to visit Angel's family, but overhears his brother discussing Angel's poor marriage. So she leaves. She hears a wandering preacher speaks and is turned to discover that he is Alec de Urberville, who has been converted to Christianity by Angel's father, the Reverend Clare. Alec and Tess are each shaken by their encounter, and Alec appallingly begs Tess never to tempt him again. Soon after, however, he again begs Tess to marry him, having turned his back on his religious ways. Tess learns from her sister Lisa that her mother is near death, and Tess is forced to return home to take care of her. Her mother recovers, but her father unexpectedly dies soon after. When the family is evicted from their home, Alec offers help, but Tess refuses to accept, knowing he only wants to obligate her to him again. At last, Angel decides to forgive his wife. He leaves Brazil, desperate to find her instead, and he returns back to England. He finds her mother, who tells him Tess has gone to a village called Sanborni. There he finds Tess in an expensive boarding house called the Herons, where he tells her he has forgiven her and begs her to take him back. Tell him that he has come too late. She was unable to resist and went back to Alex Urberville. Angel leaves in a daze and heartbroken to the point of madness. Tess goes upstairs and stabs her lover to death. When the landlady finds Alec's body, she raises an alarm. She was actually murdered. Alec Urberville. They hide out in an empty mansion for a few days, then travel farther. When they come to Stonehenge, Tess goes to sleep, but when morning breaks, shortly thereafter, a search party discover them. Tess is arrested and sent to jail. Angel and Lisa Lou watch as a black flag is raised over the prison wall, signing Tess is executed. So Tess had met her hand, her tragic hand. She was a innocent lady, and she became the victim of her circumstance. Once somebody said hard about Hardy watches over Tess like a stricken victim. He is a tender to Tess as Tess is to the world, tender and helpless. So Now let us come to the character involved in this. Tess D'Urberville, the novel's protagonist. Tess is a beautiful, loyal young woman living with her impoverished family in the village of Marlotte. Tess has a keen sense of responsibility and is committed to doing the best she can for her family. Although her inexperience of lack of wise pretending leave her extremely vulnerable. Her life is complicated when her father discovers a link to the noble line of the D'Urberville, and as a result, Tess is sent to work at the D'Urberville mansion. Unfortunately, her ideals cannot prevent her from sliding further and further into misfortune. After she becomes pregnant by Alec D'Urberville, the terrible irony is that Tess and her family are not really related to the branch of D'Urbervilles at all. Alec's father, a merchant named Simon Stroke, simply assumed the name of Angel Clear, an intelligent young man who has decided to become a farmer to preserve his intellectual freedom from the pressure of the city life. Angel's father and his two brothers are respective clergymen. He falls in love with her. Alec D'Urberville, the handsome, amoral son of a wealthy merchant named Simon Stake. Alec is not really a D'Urberville. His father simply took the name of them. So this Alec had ruined the life of Tess, and finally Tess killed Alec. Mr. John D'Urberville, the father of Tess, a lazy peddler in Marlowe. Mrs. John D'Urberville, Tess' mother John, has a strong sense of propriety and particular hopes for Tess. Mrs. D'Urberville, Alec's mother and the widow of Simon Stroke. Marian is a Hewitt and Ratty peddler. Reverend Clare, Mrs. Clare. So these are the characters involved in this novel. Ladies and gentlemen, Tess had met her end while Hardy had written a very beautiful line in the last of this novel. Justice was done, and the president of Immortal, in Aeschylean phrase, has ended his sports with Tess, and the D'Urberville knights and dames slept in their tombs unknowing. The two speechless gazes bent together down to the as if in the prayer, remained thus a long time absolutely motionless. The flag continued to wave silently. As soon as they had strength, they arose, joined hands again, and went on. So this is the tragic end of this novel. So the genre of this novel has key facts about this novel is, this is a novel written, title of this novel is Tess of D URBERVILLE, written by Thomas Hardy, novel, Victorian tragic genre. In 1880, it is England, written in England. So the setting time 1880s and 1890s. Protagonist is Tess D'Urberville, the heroine. Major conflict: Tess is seduced, impregnated, and abandoned by son of her upper-class patrons, making her unacceptable to her true love Angel later in life. Rising action of this novel is a Tess family discovered that they are ancient English aristocracy, giving them all fantasies of a higher station in life. Tess' accidental killing of the family horse, which drives her to seek help from the D'Urberville, where she is seduced and dishonored. Climax of this novel is Tess' new husband discovers her either seduction by Alec and decide to leave her, going off to Brazil and not answering her letter, bringing Tess to despair. So following action is Tess' last-ditch decision to marry Alec, who claims to love her. Angel returns from Brazil to discover Tess' marriage to her former seducer and his meeting with Tess. Tess' murder of Alex and short-lived escape with Angel before being apprehended and executed. The themes of this novel is the injustice of existence, changing idea of social class in Victorian England, man dominating woman. So motive is symbol of this is the prince, the d'Urberville family, walled Brazil. So this is the novel, ladies and gentlemen, and a very beautiful, a tragic novel. I hope you will enjoy it when you read it. Very tragic. Thank you very much.